There you go. You're right back in the Senate Judiciary, and we have Lieutenant Philipek with the Vermont State Police to provide some testimony about S9.
So,
Yep, please take it away.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
so from initial impression from reading the S9 is full support from where I stand. It may only make sense to align services for victims of sexual assault or stalking incidences with services that already exist for emergency or after hours services for victims of domestic assault or any type of any recipient of an abuse prevention order. Those after hours protocols are already in place for those. And it does not seem like it would, it doesn't seem like it's in the best interest if we're looking at how to support our victims from crimes here in Vermont, to have a separate set of protocols for business hours only for any victims of sexual assault or on the other end of somebody's been stalked or harassed. So since those protocols are already in place for after hours, it's not creating any type of new framework that doesn't already exist. It's just pulling in more victims to give them services that they need. And so if we're being mindful of that and ensuring that we're trying to support those victims, that seems like the best way forward for them.
Fantastic.
Rather than just waiting for business hours or somebody who was sexual assault.
Any questions? Sorry.
Just got a quick one.
Sure.
Lieutenant Philipek is, I assume that Selms PD is still a holding station in Franklin County?
It is, yes.
Thank you. Yes.
And Lieutenant, do you think this would have any sort of impact on the workload in either direction?
I think that it potentially could, probably more for staff at the court. Just if they're pulling in potentially more victims to file an affidavit after hours and swear them to that affidavit in order for them to bring it in front of a judge to have that order signed. Potentially it could bring in some more work, but I don't think it's going to be anything that is going to break the system that's already in place. It's just extending those services to potentially more people. But I don't see it being abused in any way or taken advantage of to where it would overload the system. I don't think so.
Thank you. Any
Just got a quick follow. Who serves these orders in Franklin County?
All law enforcement.
All along?
Yeah, so whichever coverage area that would come in for us. So to familiarize everyone with the process that works for, like, right now for an emergency after hours relief from abuse order, an RFA we call them, or an abuse prevention order that is in place for a victim of domestic assault. It's after hours, it's weekend or holiday. That victim can reach out to victim services and file an affidavit and then fill out the paperwork to get this motion in order for a judge to then sign it with abiding by whatever stipulations or whatever protocol the court puts in place for them. That order is then returned to us, is filed with the central holding station, which in our areas is St. Albans PD. And then it's issued out before service. That's issued out to service with whichever coverage area it's in. So by default, it will come back to the state police because we can always serve those orders. But if it is a plaintiff that a defendant that lives in St. Albans City would more likely be the ones to go serve that order on them. If it is in a town that is being covered by a sheriff's department, they will initially be the first to go attempt to make that service. But by default, it will still always come to us and we'll go do that. But right now, for like victims of sexual assault, they have to wait until court hours to file it. So it would follow into the same protocols for after hours that already exist for the others. And then it would be issued to us through our dispatchers to go issue the order.
Anything else from the committee? Lieutenant, any further testimony or?
No further.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Long drive down.
Oh, sure. I don't know.
How long was the drive?
Well, I was coming from Bradford, but now I'm headed to St. Albans, so I got a little
Oh, you're passing.
literally passing.
Okay.
Not a problem at all. Don't need anything else? Is that?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, committee. So I think we've heard from everybody who we need to hear from. Any additional discussion before we bring it up for a vote? Senator Norris.
Do you want me to stick around?
Up to you, whatever you want to do.
I'll get ahead to St. Albans, but I just want to make sure I'm not.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
Well, for the public, so yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing you. Take care.
It's same as lethal abuse order has. An individual doesn't necessarily have to be charged on the civil stalking order. Someone can still go and apply even though they're the alleged perpetrators where they haven't been really cited or anything to court.
Yes, that's my understanding. I think Michelle might be able
Then
to.
there's a hearing after.
Yeah.
Right, for the legal abuse, yeah. Yeah.
Good morning. So that's correct. So this is, remember, you're just limiting it to the ex parte orders. So these are the ones that perhaps there's been an incident, law enforcement's been called, there's an investigation, but this track for the civil orders runs completely independently from the criminal track. And so there does not need to be a person who's been charged or arraigned in order to issue the civil order. So these orders are only in place for 10 days before there's a hearing on on determining whether or not there should be a final order issued.
So, sorry,
And I was just going to clarify, the evidence threshold is clear and convincing, right?
Correct.
Senator Norris, yeah.
answered my question. I was gonna go for preponderance of evidence, but there is no.
Senator,
Michelle, I'm just
Yes.
wondering, in terms of the authorized person,
Mhm.
it's as though they determine whether electronic submission is okay or not?
Yes, I mean, that's something I think that Judge Zone addressed. You know, it's
Yeah.
something that they do currently with the domestic abuse RFAs now. I think
So
it's
they-
pretty standard that they're doing these electronically. But it
Yeah.
is, I think, determined on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I was just wondering, could the authorized person in a given place say that all of these must be submitted electronically? Or is it that the default is that they are not submitted electronically unless there's the authorized person determines that it's appropriate in that circumstance? Does that make sense?
Right. I think the default is that you fall back on the in-person, but again, I think, that's probably, you'd have to talk to the court with regard to whether or not it's kind of just standard practice that they do them electronically when it's after regular court hours, which is what I would expect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Also, Senator Hashim, I just wanted to note, and I sent it to the committee and to Kayla, at the last hearing when you heard from Judge Zone, he had recommended like a small technical amendment, and you guys have that. I emailed it to everybody and I emailed it to Kayla. I don't think it's critical or necessary, but you can certainly do that. And when I talked with you last week as to whether to do it as an individual instance of amendment because it's so small, or to do it as a strike all. You suggested just do it a strike all kind of while we're all getting our feet under us about amendments on the floor, so you can see it in the context. So it would just be that in 2 places. I don't know. I know I sent it. I just sent it recently to Kayla, so I don't know if you guys have access to it yet or not.
I did see it, on my phone briefly, but.
It's just that, so in the subdivision 2, where it directs the court to establish procedures for after hours access to orders against sexual assault. So that subdivision 2, it has some subdivisions under that kind of detailing the process for that. And Judge Zone asked that you add that it's clear there that we're just talking about the ex parte emergency relief orders against sexual assault, because you're not extending it to the orders against stalking. So to find clarification, but I think because you have the language limiting it to the sexual assault orders in subdivision 2, you wouldn't have to do it, but you've got it there if you decide you'd like to take that route.
I mean, if we have a recommended amendment just to make the language more clear, the court have, would certainly in support of it. And I do have a note here as well that that was raised. Committee, any thoughts on that? Fine with this board with that amendment. As a strike all was the recommendation.
That was yours, but it's totally up to y'all whether or not. I could do it if sometimes it's much easier for people to understand it on the floor if you have it as a strike all, but it is just adding those few words in 2 places. So I could easily do it as an individual instance of amendment if that's what you'd prefer.
Oh, if the strike all is what makes it more clear, then we can just do that. And we'll need to have that before we can vote,
Yep.
right?
You can vote on that one. It's been edited. I'll just take out the highlighting before it goes to the secretary's office. So that version is clean and you can vote on that one.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Get a clean copy of it and then we'll vote on it.
LT. What's that? LT. LT. What's LT? We're not at the podium this morning. LT.
Live, just so that's
Lieutenant. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not the lieutenant. I'm the president. Oh, well. Only Johnny Rogers. Johnny Rogers. I used to call him the gunslinger because when we were doing a gun bill, he was always on one side and I was on the other. And he wore one of 2 outfits. Either he had the big flag tie that he would wear, but the other one he was dressed all in black, like black boots, black pants, black tie, everything. And he looked like, with a big mustache and Wyatt or somebody. I'm pretty proud of that process. Not sure how it is.
Any final discussion before we take a vote on this?
Simply, if the chair would entertain a motion,
I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we move draft 1.1 of S9 favorably.
So, Senator Meadows, if you want to call the roll.
Absolutely. Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Bihotski.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Meadows. Yes. Senator Hashim.
Yes.
5-0-0.
Fantastic. Who would like to refer to this? Anybody who, perhaps a co-sponsor?
It does have Bob Norris written all over it.
And it doesn't have Senator Bohosky, but she has been one today now.
It seemed like there were a lot of great.
I'm fine with it.
Can't do all the bills.
You
It just
could.
wouldn't be fair.
Excellent.
We wouldn't take it personally.
I would not. I would not.
Senator Hashim, can I just mention something? Sorry, I misspoke. The standard for the RFAs for all of them is preponderance, not clear and convincing. So, but that's an underlying law and you're not changing anything with regard to that. You're just changing the process.
Thank you.
I got a quick question. Taking a vote. So can I expect a summary from someone, Michelle, on this bill?
Sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You need to push it out a day too,
Yeah, let's push it out a day too.
before you take it
Not
up
up to you,
today.
just don't take it up.
All right, we have Matt Valerio coming in at 11, so we can take another break until then.
Okay.